Hello, folks. This is Jeff Davis with the legendary Jeff Davis Show from Central Texas, USA. And I love Mike Hanson Archives. Peace out, baby.
Now, we've had some callers that have been holding for a long time. You want to go, y'all?
Let's talk to them.
Yeah, Joyce needs to talk. Anybody needs to talk with Joyce, you need to do it now. We need to talk.
Okay, who's the first caller on the air?
Joyce Riley.
Pardon me?
Joyce?
Yes, sir. What's your first name?
I'm Pat.
Hi, Pat.
I'm a Vietnam veteran, and I went to a post-traumatic stress unit up there in Topeka, Kansas. And my two roommates up there were Gulf War veterans. About 2 months after I got out of that program, I came up with looked like all kinds of little pimples all over my body. And then they spread out, and they looked like ringworms. They were about the size of an orange, about 6 inches around. And they said, well, it wasn't ringworms, so they gave me this fungal cream. They said, you must have picked something up in the shower or something, which was impossible because every time someone takes a shower, they sprayed it down with Clorox and water. Okay. Anyway, it got worse and worse and worse. I didn't run any fever or any temperatures or anything, but I slept all the time. And they gave me DEX, like cycline. It was white pills. And they gave me this antibiotic cream. It's TRIAMCINOLONE, acetondine. They gave me that. Then they cut out a bunch of, little sections and sent it into 5 or 6 different major, clinics to see what it was, and it all came back negative. They couldn't decide, or they wouldn't tell me what it was. Do you think that's Gulf War syndrome?
Well, let me tell you that I cannot diagnose anything because I'm not a physician.
Does it sound like that?
Thanks for your call, Pat. I want to get on some other calls.
Right, Pat. And did you get the phone number?
Ahead, Joyce.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me say that, unfortunately, everything you say fits with what we're talking about with the Gulf War illness. And I am not a doctor. I'm not trying to prescribe or diagnose, but let me say to you that everything you just said fits very, very much with the Gulf War illness, that it starts like pimples in the rash that Gulf War veterans have to a large extent. Then it goes into the ringworm size presentation, and usually the VA will then give a cream, a fungal cream for it, and you were lucky to get prescribed doxycycline if you were prescribed that. If that was what you said, I didn't understand, but because that's very unusual that they would do that. But that sounds like the presentation of it, becoming very sick, very tired. Those are all the symptoms. Now, the problem that we have with Gulf War veterans that are living in close relationship with each other is that people tend to eat and drink after each other. You pick up a glass somebody else has used, or you eat something that somebody else had, and that's one of the problems. And I would say to you that the possibility is there, very much so. Now, there is the blood test like we were talking about, but it costs $150. On the screen right now, what you're seeing is a terramycin powder and tetracycline for fish. And unfortunately, that is what Gulf War veterans have done, is they have gone to the feed stores because they cannot get the antibiotics. Our military are now going to feed stores to get the antibiotics to treat themselves and their families, which is incredibly atrocious. So that's why we've agreed to pay for doxycycline for anyone that cannot afford it, is that we will find the money. We will get the money for you. We don't want any veteran going to a feed store. But the answer is yes to his question, is that is what I'm hearing from other Gulf War veterans.
Okay, next caller, you're on the air with Joyce Isaacs and Joyce. Before we do that, let me just mention that, Joyce, I want to mention, wait a minute, hold on just a minute, caller.
We need to take these
Thank
calls.
you for holding, by the way. When is you're starting a new radio program?
Well, not right now. I'm doing editorials. Can you imagine? I would have an opinion in the the morning drive and the afternoon drive, and they started last week, and then I went out and recorded some today. So my boss said, "You're just too sweet," but he doesn't realize that I can, call you something and make you really like it. You know that, Jeff. But that's what I'm doing for now, so I'm getting a chance to write a little bit.
It's on K News.
K News, 1530.
15? Okay. Okay, caller, you're on the air. Hello.
Hear me?
Yes, sir.
This is Recon Robert.
Hello, brother.
How you doing?
You're on with Joyce Isaacs and Joyce Riley.
Yeah. I attended Joyce's seminar yesterday. This is a angel sitting
She is.
on your right.
She is.
No, that's very kind of you. Thank you.
For the young man that's the non-vet, I know I can't mention names, but I got rid of my dose of that crap with herbal remedies, homeopathic. But I do have some questions.
You ever heard of that before?
Yes, I have. Yes, I recommend looking into it.
Yes, there is a person in Colorado who has a wonderful remedy. It takes about a year.
Okay, wait a minute, phone
But-
caller. I'm sorry. We're going to have to do something here. We got to go to the black thing for a minute.
Tell him about George Bush and his wife getting ill.
Wait just a minute,
Okay.
Robert. Okay, we're going to have to. Okay, go ahead, and I guess we can go on then. Go ahead. I'm sorry. We're changing
understand.
tapes, so we're going to put this on rotation, so we got to do this.
Yes, sir. I understand that Mr. and Mrs. Bush got ill. And
That
then-
is correct.
Yes.
George Bush was in Saudi Arabia for Thanksgiving of 1990, and he did come down with a disease called Graves' disease. This Graves' disease is something that we're seeing among many, many Gulf War veterans. Whether he got it from that, I don't know or not. I could never say. But Barbara did get it, and to one of the physicians I was talking to, he said that the chances of getting it all in the same family at the same time is just statistically impossible.
Thank you. Now, the other question is, how many known cases do we have around the world, not just here in America, but other armed forces?
Okay, with the military, or with the, let me talk about the military coalition forces, is that we know that there were 26 coalition or 27 coalition countries that served during the Gulf War. Out of that, one country, and only one country, does not report sick and dying Gulf War veterans, and that is France. So all the other coalition countries that served alongside of us are ill now and have sick Gulf War veterans, dying Gulf War veterans.
Yes,
As-
ma'am. But is there any statistic on deaths in these other nations?
Well, the only thing I can tell you that Dr. Nicholson has shared with me is that 20% of the people in the theater of operations now report illnesses within their country, and that would be United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Iran, Iraq, all except with the exception of Syria. We don't have any figures on Syria, but that 20% of those populations are ill now. We know that there have been at least 1 million and we believe 2 million deaths in Iraq.
Oh, boy.
Now, one of the concerns I have is that these children they keep showing on TV and all these deaths that are a result of the embargoes, the UN-imposed embargoes, may not be that. They may be as a result of the Gulf War illness because we know it's over there. All you have to do is talk to Iranian
Or
and Iraqi.
both.
Yeah,
Or
both.
yeah.
But Iranian and Iraqi taxi drivers, and they can tell you about the deaths that they've been having over there and the deformities in the children.
Let me just mention something. You know, I had a friend, I went up to Ohio last June, and an old friend of mine from 20 years back mentioned to me, he never believed that, you know, he didn't listen to a lot of things I said. Well, I don't really talk to him that much anymore, but he brought up that he had a brother that recently died. He was 40 years old, and they believed that it was linked to what you're saying. He even knew who you were and had been studying your tapes and everything. So, I mean, when it hits somebody directly that you...
That's right, and that's why I think everybody better start. If you don't have any other motive except a selfish motive, you better start listening.
Everybody better understand how serious this is. This is not my opinion. And this is not my documentation. This is government documentation that I brought with me that shows that they have known the truth about this disease also. When is it going to stop?
But we're not real sure how it's spread. That's what's so
Well,
much
it's
the
spread,
thing.
first of all, by blood transfusions. We know that the Gulf War veterans that came back and were encouraged to donate blood at their Guard and Reserve units, you know, when you have a unit training activity on the weekends and your commander tells you to donate blood,
Yeah.
you don't say, well, sir, I don't feel like it today. You donate.
But all that's been stopped, hasn't it?
No, it has not.
It hasn't?
Absolutely not. No, Gulf War veterans are going into blood banks all over this country every day and donating blood. And because there is no Gulf War illness. Don't you understand?
Oh, I forgot.
The
Because
Pentagon
there is-
says there is no Gulf War illness. Therefore, it's okay.
I don't know, but I hope I don't have to have a blood transfusion. I'm being selfish now. Okay.
Exactly. And we have made this allegation against the blood banks. And of course, as we go into blood banks and I talk with the directors and tell them that they are on notice, here's the evidence right here, it's communicable. It says so right here. In 103-600, it says the disease is communicable. Now, if you don't understand communicable means in blood, in semen, in bodily fluids, why do you think? You were talking about, is this population control? I'm not saying it was meant as population control, but I am saying that if you have a disease and you allow your people in the general population to get it, and you allow people to have blood transfusions and disperse this disease, it is going to control your population whether you want to or not.
Well, not only that, Joyce, but I kind of look at things as maybe, I don't know if you're familiar with the Hegelian principle, where you create the crisis, and then you create fear and hysteria, and in step 3 you come in with the solution, meaning bigger government, more steal, more taking over taxes and resources. You come in and present the solution in step 3 for the problem you created in step 1 and 2.
Oh,
I'm suggesting that the enemy, that the people that control this system, do things like that. That's
I know.
what I'm suggesting.
I understand you're suggesting that. But listen to this. Well, John Birch Society has just accused me in their latest magazine, in the New American, of trying to scare people into the New World Order. That's what they were saying. John McManus wrote me the nastiest letter saying that there was no Gulf War illness, or at least if there was a government cover-up, the New American would have printed it.
May I interrupt you briefly, and then I'll let get
Sure,
off?
I'm sorry.
I've got one comment to say, and this is to only for help. I challenge all true Christians to do like we are going to do. Save an extra 10% a tithe to send to your people.
We can't do that. We can't do
can't
that
do- we
in
don't
here.
do that.
Hey, cut it.
Right.
Well, I'm sorry, Robert. We can't do that. Disconnect him real quick. We can't do that down here. We got suspended for doing that down here. Okay, next caller. You're on the air.
Hello. I would like to ask Joyce if she knows. See, I got a letter from Dr. Nichols when I was in prison, and in regards to the same thing. And do you know of any epidemic of this being broken out in the TDC system through the John Seeley Hospital through chemical testing?
An epidemic of it in the John Seeley?
Well, no, it was supposed to come from the John Seeley Hospital, but the same symptoms, same epidemic, chemical testing before Gulf War treatment. We have a lot of inmates in the Texas prison system now that have the same symptoms, but many of the institutional doctors are putting it off to various other types of illness.
Right. Let me ask you a question. Have you, you said you were you tested for it?
No, I was not tested, but I had an inmate in the cell next to me who had been tested for it, and he had the same symptoms you just described earlier on the show. And there are others in the same unit, and we have received word through the Coalition of Prisoners' Rights in New Mexico that this came out through John Seeley Hospital.
Okay, let me explain this whole system. Did you have anything else to say, or do you want me to just
No,
answer
go
you on
ahead.
the air?
Thanks for your call, brother.
You betcha.
Okay, let me explain why the prisoners have something to do with this. He was stating that he was a prisoner at Texas Department of Corrections. We now know from some of the research that Dr. Nicholson has done, as well as a lady named Sally Medley, who was, by the way, at the meeting last night from Huntsville, Texas, has been doing a lot of research into where this disease started. In the 1980s, we found the same mycoplasmal outbreak of the same biological warfare agent that we're talking about right now that Gulf War veterans have, was found in Huntsville, Texas, at the Texas Department of Corrections. Now, we now know that some of the doctors that were working on this as a research project, and we also know that they were there at Huntsville at that time. We know that some immunizations were given to some of the prisoners there, and it was called a flu vaccine, though it was given intradermally in this area, which is never done. We know that people such as what he was just talking about came down ill with this disease. And right now in Huntsville, Texas, there are something like 67 cases of multiple sclerosis. And the town is, I believe, 35,000. There were prisoners that got this disease. Those prisoners, many of them have since died. The prisoners gave the guards there the disease. The guards gave it to their families. There are about 350 people now that have this disease in Huntsville, Texas. There is an ongoing investigation right now. I won't mention by whom, but they are now looking into this as being perhaps the testing ground prior to the Gulf War of the vaccination that we received. So it all comes together. But what he was saying is that the guy in the cell next to him was positive for this mycoplasma, and that is probably why. TDC at Huntsville was the one area where we found the most people with this disease.
Now, you know something, Joyce? When people doubt what we're saying, or they say, you know, you're just radical, or da-da-da, and our government wouldn't do this, what has come to light in the last, 2 or 3 years, or 5 years maybe, the Southerners, the black men that were, do you know what I'm talking about?
Absolutely.
Okay. Tell us, you're a nurse, tell us what happened, because they were just told a bold-faced lie, and many of them died. It was treating what, syphilis? Or,
Yes.
Oh, that's the Tuskegee
Yeah.
experiment.
Yes.
You see, these experiments, and we're not talking about just Tuskegee. There have been experiments going on
this is
since
the one we
1940,
know about.
1950s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now,
There have been many of
Are
these.
you aware of the swine flu epidemic?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. This whole thing about mandatory government shots.
Oh, I wouldn't take a shot for anything
Yeah.
right now.
but that
There's no way.
Yeah, but the Tuskegee thing, they had people that were sick.
Right. The story is that basically 399 black men, if you look at the story that appeared in the AP story February 21st of this year, 399 black men were allowed to get the disease syphilis and allowed to have it for 40 years, in which it was untreated, even though there was penicillin at the time that would
Right.
treat it. 40 years.
40
now,
years.
the AP story in the Pittsburgh Press said, the Pittsburgh newspaper, because I was there the day it came out, and I didn't sleep that night. I was so angry.
Oh.
It says, 399 black men from 1932 to 1972, the government allowed these men to suffer and die. That was the words from the AP story. The government experimented upon these people and allowed them to suffer and die.
Because they were using them just
As an
like
experiment.
lab
That's right.
animals.
And you know, my response to that is, how could any real American not say, I'm sorry, that is it? There it is, bold-faced in the newspaper, that the government allowed them to suffer and die during an experiment. Now, it wasn't just 399 men. It was over 6,000 people that were all involved in this because their spouses got it. Their children were born deformed.
Yes.
But nobody talks about the other 6,000 people. And so when Clinton comes across the stage and he introduces these... Apologizing on
Yeah.
behalf of America and the government.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I need to tell him I had nothing to do with that. And I would never have had anything to do with
But
that.
that was when we were so innocent. That's what gets me about
Oh, yeah,
was the
it was a
30s.
long time ago.
Yeah,
but you know
it's a
what?
long time ago.
1972 is when it ended. That was the last part of the study. You know what I say
hadn't ended
when
yet,
Clinton
Joyce.
comes across the stage and says we apologize, and he talked about how this 98-year-old guy has a garden of his own. He made it look like it's good to have syphilis. You know, I mean he was inappropriate as all get out. And then I didn't want to see him come across that stage with an apology. I wanted him to bring a list of names and indictments of people that were going to spend the rest of their lives in prison for what they had done during that experiment. That violates everything this country stands for.
Well, it violates what we stand for as humans.
That's right.
But the thing about it, it's still not over. Like you say, who do we know that still has it from a child, an adult, or somebody, that's still suffering from what was passed on because it's so
That's
highly
right.
contagious.
How much of the disease?
How many blind people?
How much of the disease in Georgia? You have to
many
excuse us, but
people-
we're
yeah,
talking.
No, that's
Yes,
quite all
mad.
right.
You're just
I'm going to hit
mad.
you with these when you're done.
Okay.
How much of the disease in Georgia
We're
and
not taking a
Mississippi
break.
and
We're going straight.
Alabama?
Right. Babies
Yeah.
that were born with things wrong with
Joyce
them that
knew.
it shouldn't have happened. Yes. Read your website.
Yeah,
before
okay.
you whipped. Okay.
www.gulfwarvets.com is the website, and the address to write to us is Gulf War, 3506 Highway 6 South, number 117, Sugar Land, Texas, 774-78-4401. The phone number is 281-587-5437. Leave a number and I'll call you back.
Let me just now let me just insert some of these things. I've been doing some investigation myself. I'm just going to hit you with it.
Do it.
The World Health Organization, it's a loving organization. Now there are definite conclusions coming that they are actually linking the World Health Organization to the spread of a lot of these contagious diseases. Now, but let me just take you back. Fluoride in our water What I submit to you that they are poisonous on every front. Aspartame, that was used by the Nazis, which is now in NutraSweet and our Diet Cokes and things like this. There's all types of different evidence. This food irradiation, you hearing about this food, which kills the live enzymes from our food. What I'm suggesting is through our food and water supply, these people who I believe are the enemies of the American people and the world are literally poisonous in their basic food and water systems. Have you pondered any of that, Joyce?
Oh, have I? I will tell you first of all, believe me, I have.
I just want to tell you.
Believe me, I have. I mean, I lay awake nights thinking about this stuff.
I drank fluoride water, and it will not make you sterile, okay?
Well, no, this is true, though. Has been linked to stomach and liver cancer.
Okay, let me tell you something.
If you drink enough of it.
I got some...
what about food irradiation? You know anything about
wait a
that?
minute. Hold on a second.
Go ahead.
Let me start back with fluoride, because I want to mention this to you. Under Project MK Ultra, which a lot of people know of that, there were 175 sub-projects under MK Ultra, which people don't know about. One of them, and I got the declassified documents. Have you ever seen the declassified documents on MK Ultra?
No, I haven't.
See, everybody talks about it, but nobody has the documents. So I went to where I could find a copy of the only one of the few remaining MK Ultra documents, and I got it. And I had to take it one page at a time off the microfilm, but I got it. And in there is a doctor, Dr. Geschichter from the Geschichter Institute at Georgetown University, who's being asked, how did you spend all your money from MK Ultra that you were given, the millions of dollars? And he said, I was investigating fluoride and chlorine and rocket fuels, halogen derivatives. And they said, what was your response? And he said, I found they caused cancer. Now that was in a 1977 congressional hearing. Georgetown University professor said that. I don't think that hit the news. Do you?
But they care about our teeth.
Exactly, they care. Rat poison.
But the aspartame too. The Hitler used aspartame. It's a subtle. It kind of works the same thing. It makes it docile.
Well,
have
aspartame.
You heard that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've heard all of the negative that goes on with aspartame.
But see, this loving FDA is approving these things. You know,
Hope you're enjoying the classic videos here on Hanson Archives. Just wanted to take a moment to tell you the money that we get from my book sales are going into paying somebody to put all these up and to transfer them over from VHS to the YouTube channels. Alex Jones and myself snuck into Bohemian Grove. That's what my book's about. There's when we were a lot younger. There's Alex and there's me when we were a lot younger, in our younger days. Actually, that was over 20 years ago. And here is the book, Bohemian Grove, Cult of Conspiracy. And if you write the address she's going to put up right here throughout the video, write and send us $25, and I'll sign the book and send it your way, and we will use it very wisely to start uploading these videos, which we have been. That equipment cost me a fortune, and the lady that sits there is costing me a fortune. She's on her way back in here. But we've got all these tapes done so far, and we got hundreds and hundreds of more tapes. When I was the producer for Alex Jones and Jeff Davis and a whole bunch of other good patriots fighting the New World Order, I'll just say one thing: death to the New World Order. It's been 25 years, 30 years for a lot of us fighting this so-called New World Order.
Oh, absolutely. We're supposed to believe whatever they tell us and whatever's advertised.
Right.
Yeah, did you know that FDA does not test anything? Did you know that? They depend upon the pharmaceutical companies to test them. Oh, they're going to be honest.
Yeah.
All they have at stake is millions of dollars
What
to
about
make.
food irradiation?
Oh,
Just real
well,
quick.
hey.
Oh,
Right.
food irradiation. Now you're going to get me really going. Food irradiation makes me livid.
But they got to protect our beef.
Oh, no.
Wait
There
a
was
minute,
only
wait a
one
minute.
thing that you could not irradiate, that legally you could not irradiate:
What?
beef. And lo and behold, we have the Hudson Farms problem. Isn't that
Yeah,
amazing?
yeah.
I'll tell you what, get a book called The food that
We
would
can't
last
say
for-
get a book, but in a book.
in a book
Yeah,
that
in
could
a
be
book.
found at a
Oh,
used
no.
library, a used bookstore.
Could you give a list of what we
Yeah, we
could
got-
eat? Because I think it'll be shorter.
It's scary. They're going to irradiate everything because, think about it, if nothing will grow in it, right? No microorganisms will grow in it. Well, how good is that going to be for you?
Yeah.
Does it change the DNA structure? Absolutely it
Well,
does.
how about all the antibiotics they've been giving poultry and beef in all these years? Don't they give
Oh,
it to
absolutely.
feedlot?
But you see, people don't
But
understand
that's
that.
negative too, right? All the
Hello.
antibiotics.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Our weight
Oh,
limits are
wait a
going-
minute. Have we got a phone call?
Yeah, hold on just a minute.
We're being rude. Okay.
No, that's all right. I just want to say you studied.
Keep on talking.
No, go ahead, ma'am.
No,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
We're done.
Hi, Jeff. This is Chris.
Well, how you doing, sweetness?
Oh, pretty good, pretty good. I wanted to tell Joyce that it was a great show yesterday. And I'm kind of sorry if it seemed kind of disrespectful when you were talking about the soldier named Scott and you showed his picture 2 weeks before he died. But right when you said that, Joyce, that flag came off that wall, and I had to get a chuckle because I knew he was there with you and he was supporting you.
Oh, that's kind of you. Thank you for saying that.
So I just wanted to make sure that you didn't think it was disrespectful because I had a smile on my face when you said that.
Thank you for saying that. Let me explain what she is saying. A while ago, they showed a young man that had a tube in his nose that was very sick on the
yes,
picture.
that was just-
And let me explain what that's all about. That is one of America's heroes. And I don't do that lightly. I don't show that picture up there lightly, but that was one of America's heroes. That was Scott Siefken. He had served in the Army. He served in the National Guard. He came back from the Gulf War. He had a rash. And the VA told him that there was only one thing they could do to save his life, and that was they needed to remove his skin. Well, during the meeting yesterday, as I was talking about Scott and we put his picture up there, the American flag fell down at that time. And she was saying that at the time that she had let out sort of a laugh or a comment, and what she was saying was Scott was with us there at the meeting. Because Scott is...
That's right. I believe that stuff.
Uh-huh.
More than Jeff, but no, I believe that's
And
right.
Scott comes from one of the most patriotic families. He had 5 brothers and sisters in the military, or 5 sisters that served in the military. 5 out of the 6 kids served in the military.
And the flag fell off the wall.
And the flag fell off the wall at the time we showed his picture. But that's one of America's heroes. In fact, they did remove Scott's skin, and the picture that we had that was on the TV a little while ago was 2 weeks before Scott died. And that is an experiment that went awry, and he died. And I will just say this, in all due respect for Scott, is that 2 weeks after he died, his only son was born. And his little boy has a goal now, and that is to go get his daddy with a rocket ship and bring him back so that everybody will quit crying.
That's him right there.
That's Scott Siefken right there, one of America's heroes. Now, that's the real Gulf War illness Dan Rather doesn't tell you about.
No,
That's
but
a real Gulf War illness that CNN won't tell you about. And his mother asked me if I would show that picture because America needs to understand what's happening to its veterans. It's horrible to look at that. I know. It's very uncomfortable to look at that picture. But that is what happens when you serve your country and you're guilty of nothing more than willing to die for it. You come back here, and he was told he had a mental problem. And the sad part is his family now has that rash. And they came to the meeting that we did up in Waterloo, Iowa, and his mother held out her hand and said, "See, now I've got it." And it's spreading into the family now. So the tragedy is, it's all these experiments all the way along. Is it fluoride, chlorine, vaccinations, flu shots? I would not get a flu shot. I would not get an immunization now because of what I know.
okay, now there's a new flu. Have you seen that? Like in the last 24 hours, it's Hong Kong. Would you love that?
And how do they always know
Yeah.
what we're
Yeah,
going
how
to
do
be
they?
hit by?
Yeah, how do they know what we're going to be hit?
Yeah, what we're going to
Don't
do.
you
It
love that
started in
CNN
Hong
now?
Kong. Okay.
And CNN now they're telling you where are going to be the big flu cities in the next 6 weeks.
Yeah, they're telling us.
Are they smart or what?
Yeah.
They either have a psychic working for them, or I'm not sure how they can figure that out.
What it boils down to, this government, as far as I'm concerned, it's mirrors Rome. You know, the modern Roman emperors who were just slave masters.
Bread and games.
I would literally suggest to you.
Incredible.
We're actually running out of time here. I want to give. Do you have any before we get to our closing comments here? Do you have any? Okay, we've I think we've established for anybody who watches the show that this government is totally irresponsible.
They're not taking care of their veterans.
Yeah, they have another agenda.
That's right.
Do you have any solutions for this or anything that you're fighting for, Joyce?
First of all, I want Austin to come together and form an Operation Braveheart. I want to see Operation Braveheart started here in every town across the nation where they take care of their veterans, because these guys need help, they're too sick, and they need support. And if that means we're going to go to the TV stations and the mainstream media and with placards or something, you know, whatever we decided as a town to do, every town across the country needs to do something. They need to get involved with these veterans.
What's that, like
Secondly,
a non-profit type thing?
oh, it won't even be that. It'll be just loosely grouped people that come together because they care.
Operation Braveheart.
Braveheart. We
Right.
want somebody to take responsibility for starting that here in Austin. It can be Gulf War veterans, friends of Gulf War veterans, family of Gulf War veterans, whatever. Then we need to start writing our congressmen some serious letters, like holding their feet to the fire, like Phil Graham said on this committee. Phil Graham has full knowledge the disease is communicable. He has full knowledge that the disease is killing our veterans. His name is in here, and he knows about it. And I want to know when these people are going to be held accountable for their actions. And our own Phil Graham, having been one of the 15 people that sat on that committee, is extremely accountable. I want us to get involved as an American population, as a group, to start looking at evidence behind what we talk about. Get these documents. Some of them aren't available any longer from Congress or from the Senate, but get it, do your investigation, and find out if I'm really telling you the truth, because if I'm telling you the truth, then we're in more trouble than even just this nice conversation here between the three of us can even portray. We're in more trouble because that means we are intentionally allowing our military to die. And if that is true, if it will happen to our military, you know the saying, they came for the Jews and I wasn't a Jew?
Right.
They came for the Catholics and I wasn't a Catholic. Well, they're coming for your military right now, one person at a time, and they're taking them. And if we don't do something about it, it's going to be us next.
Hello?
Joyce?
Yes.
Hello.
Yes, caller, real quickly. We're running out of time here.
This is Babs. I want to know where you get printed literature to give to people.
Well, just go ahead and get hold of our comment line. That's the way
Yeah.
be the way to handle that. Put up the comment line, and when any message that comes to Joyce, actually we can put up your number.
You can contact me and I can tell you where to find it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Which government documents you need
Go
to
ahead
get
and read
hold
it
of.
again real quick.
Okay,
Joyce.
Gulf War, the address, Gulf War,
Wait.
3506, Highway 6 South, number 117, Sugar Land, Texas, 77478-4401, phone number 281-587-5437, website www.gulfwarvets.com, gulfwarvets.com, and I can tell you which documents are available
Yeah, I
from the
want to
government.
know why they had to remove his skin.
Actually, we're running out of time here. I'm sorry.
We don't know. We don't know.
But
Okay, that's got to be the last call for tonight.
But like we were
Go ahead,
saying,
Joyce.
the thing that people better start to realize, because Saddam is over there trying to bait us again. We're not through with him, and it's almost justice because we created the little fellow, and he's our little child, right?
That's right.
Say it, Joyce. You get
We
so
armed
mad.
him.
We
We
armed him, and now we've earned him. We're going to really
That's
have to. This is not something that is going to be, when you start dealing with viruses.
It's
you can't
deadly.
control- It's deadly.
It's biological terrorism, and 25 other countries have these same biological agents because we sold them to 25 other
And
countries.
they cannot differentiate these little things that come out and get you. They can't say, let's get the people in uniform. They get whoever is there, and it may be you
right.
or your child.
That's right.
And he's going to level bad things on us.
He or someone, and we don't know who is, but we know we're being set up for it, though.
And they're busy cooking up their little recipes, aren't they?
And the sad part is that I do think it is going to happen in this country. I think
Oh, Joyce.
I think biological terrorism, unfortunately, is imminent. We have given too many countries this. There are some people that believe that up to 50 countries now have this. And we're making an enemy in the Middle East. We're making enemies many places by going in with these UN actions. And I'm afraid we're setting ourselves up as a target.
But this one is a whole new battlefield.
Oh, the days of bullets are over. The bullet
forget
wars are
it.
gone.
Yeah.
Right.
That would start to look good, probably,
Oh, yeah.
compared to what's going to happen to us. if we don't get a handle
It's
on
Pandora's
this.
box. We have opened Pandora's box,
Truly.
and we are going to be the victims of it.
I would suggest to you that if some little foreign excursion outfit doesn't do it, the big enemy could very well do that.
We know that
Who
somebody's
knows?
setting us up for it.
Yeah. Okay, I want to just give y'all, we got 2 minutes left. Joyce, closing comments?
Well, I just hope everybody's going to listen, and I hope that you're going to recognize the fact that Joyce Riley is truly a hero, and I think a lot of us have. No, you are, and she's a true patriot and a woman, and I'm proud of you.
Well, thank you. Let me say.
Good luck to you on your radio show.
Oh, good
Joyce.
luck to you, honey. Don't kiss me. You might have something I'd catch.
Joyce Riley?
Not you, but anybody. I want to say that I believe I was healed for this reason. I believe I was healed. This is not anything I've done. This is my mission that I've been given because I will never forget where I've come from. I was sick. I was very, very sick. And I will not forget. I will not ever forget because there are Gulf War veterans out there that are sick right now as we speak. Their wives, their spouses, their children. And I want them to know that we will be there. And America will care as soon as America finds out. And that's why we need every person out there to circulate these videos.
Keep talking.
Get this information out. Get the documents yourself. Don't believe me. Get the documents yourself. And then we've got to move forward together.
Joyce Isaacs, God, I appreciate you coming on the Jeff Davis Show.
Anytime, Jeff. I love it.
Joyce Riley, God bless you,
Thank
dear.
you.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
With that, folks, we're going to wind it down. I appreciate the callers and our guests here tonight. God bless you, folks, and death to the New World Order. God bless you.
I love Mike Hanson Archives.
You ready to see it? All right, who wants to lead? Let Gene go. Go ahead. Yes, sir. All right. God bless the Republic